Hi, and welcome to DestroyerAlive episode 67. This is our second episode in English.
Yep.
And we're having... The guest this time is really cool. It's... I'm not really sure how many have heard about him before, but he's got a lot of cool Kiss stories from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna start. And over to Roger Bernard. Okay, welcome to Roger Bernard.
Welcome, everyone.
LA.
Hi, Alex.
Hey.
Let's see.
Hi, Magnus.
Hello. Where we're gonna start? It's really you're probably most known in the Kiss world for your Black books.
Correct. Do you want me to talk a little bit about myself?
Yeah,
I want to get a good idea.
Start about a bit about your history in the 70s.
Sure. Well, before I get to the history, I'm going to summarize my life in less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
To give you a little bit of idea to see what kind of personality that I have. At a very young age, when I was like maybe 5 or 6, I was introduced to monster movies, and my mom got me into that. And that was my first, like, when I love something. But by the way, in life, when I get into something, I tend to go very, very deep. And that could be a problem sometimes. So that's why to this day I never got into drugs, which is good, because I knew I would be in deep trouble. I probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But as far as the monsters, the very first movie I saw was The Blob. No, not The Blob, but it was called Kaltiki, which was almost like The Blob. But it was a black and white movie, obviously, because it was back in 1966 I saw that. And I totally got into it because the fear was something that I really enjoyed. And that's why I like to scare people, and I like to be scared as well. Then it grew up. And first of all, let me just tell you that I'm from Quebec City, Canada. And in Quebec City, Canada, for whoever never been there, most of the people speak French. To say all of them, actually. If you ever go to Quebec, you go in restaurants and hotels, they'll be able to speak English, but anyone else, it's going to be French. Now, Montreal is about 2 hours away from Quebec by driving, and that particular city is going to be bilingual. So a lot of people will speak English, and a lot of people will speak French, and a lot of people will speak both. But as far as Quebec City, it's very limited. And I say that because it's going to enter into the Kiss story later. But then so my next love for things was probably comics, as well as non-sports cards. I used to collect those, like the Batman from 1966, and then Mars Attack, and so on and so on. So I was very much into kind of the fantasy world. And then the next one was music. Now, music, obviously, was playing on the radio, so I never really had something that I was into quite strong. Until one day we were going with my parents and my brother, and we go, and I see a vinyl album that was Elvis. And then I asked my mom if we could buy it because of the cover, and it was Elvis dressed in white, and there was a spotlight coming down. And the spotlight really made it kind of cool because it was a concert. So I said, I want to have that. So we bought it. I got home that night and I put it on a record player, and it was okay. It didn't really shock me or anything like that. So my cousin, Gilles Laroche, who lives across the street, came over, and I showed it to him. And he, look at that. This is an album from Elvis. Listen to it with me a little bit. And he goes, follow me. We go across the street. And he puts on an album. And this is what he put. That was in 1970. This is what he put.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about a awakening. I listened to Speed King. The very first 5 seconds, my jaw dropped down on the floor. I was like, I had goosebumps everywhere. I said, like, okay, this is it. This is something I really love. Then after that, obviously, I went into Led Zeppelin, and then, but see, I was very diversified because in Quebec City, there's not that many concerts that comes in that city, and there was a lot of progressive bands that were coming as well. So I was very, very wide open. Every time there was a concert, it doesn't matter who was playing, we had to go and see that. So my very first concert was in 1975. It was a Gentle Giant, progressive band. So just the fact to see the spotlights and see how the stage looked like, and then obviously the sound was like, oh my God, this is an experience. I'm going to see concert the rest of my life all the time because I love it so much. Following shortly after that was Frank Zappa came twice. I went to see it twice. And then Genesis. Genesis, I saw them in 1975 and 1977. A Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wintering. And that was cool because now the visual in concerts were getting better and better. Obviously, I did not have the chance to see Genesis with Peter Gabriel. That would have been the ultimate thing for me at that time because of the visual. But I saw Trick of the Tail, and at the end of the Trick of the Tail, there was a laser at the very end. I said, wow, I've never seen anything like this in a concert. Then the following one in 1977, they used two of them, one white one that was coming down as a cone over Phil Collins. I said, and it was spinning around like a cage. I said, okay, I love this. So before I go to, now Kiss is coming very, very, very close now. Before I get to that, I need to tell you something, the man who introduced me to that. So in between 1972 and 1976, I got involved into karate. There was Bruce Lee on TV, and I said, okay, I got to get into that. And like I told you, when I get into something, I go quite deep. So within 4 years, I became a black belt, and I was going in competition around the country, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. But one of the students at the karate was I became a friend of his because he liked music, and I liked music. And then one day in 1975, 1975, beginning of 76, he says, hey, I said, have you ever heard of the band Kiss? I said, no. He said, you should listen to them. So they have makeup, and I know you like monsters and all kind of things like that. So I said, you would probably dig that. I said, all right. But I never had the money to go buy the album. And if I had money, then I would buy something that I already know that it's going to be good. So I did not go for Kiss yet until there was in 1976, I'm going to say fall. I have another friend of mine. He says, come over here. So I go to his place, and he said, I have this drum solo you need to listen to. And he puts Kiss Alive, and he puts 100,000 Years. And I'm listening to this, and I said, okay, whoa. And I'm not very big into solos. I don't think that too much. But that was impressive. So I said, you know what? I really would like to hear the very first song. So he puts Deuce, and I was staring at the album. Now I can almost see them moving, but most important, I was looking at the attitudes of the guy on the album cover. Not inside, the cover. So I could see Paul. Even Paul was by himself on the right. You knew that was his world, and he was controlling it. So I was able to see that. In those days, there was no videos. There was nothing you can see them live. So I started connected with that, and I said, okay, this is good. And to this day, if you play Alive to me, the one thing that's going to resonate to me is Ace's guitar.
Okay. Yeah.
Somehow. That sound is unmistakable. You will recognize it right away, no matter what song it is. You can play 2 seconds of any part, and you'll know this is Kiss Alive. So needless to say, Kiss Alive is my favorite Kiss album, by the way. And if I have to put in line like my top 5 album of all time, Kiss Alive is in there. But so now I've been introduced to Kiss, really. And the next step, I said, okay, that guy, Guy Menard, who was telling me at the karate lessons, who was telling me about Kiss, I said, I need to get a hold of him. So I called him, and we start hanging together. And then we start buying magazines like Rock Scene, Hit Parader, and we start looking at pictures of Kiss. Now I'm starting to build a little bit of collection. My love for Kiss is starting growing, but is it there yet? Not quite. But it's getting there. I can see it growing now because I'm starting buying magazines. So this is a sign right there that it's going to be ugly in a very near future.
Just to get in that perspective, how old were you in '76?
Okay, so me?
Yeah.
16 years old. I was born in 1960, so you
Okay.
follow the years. It's very easy for me to follow. So in
Yeah, yeah.
1977, I'd be 17 years old.
Mm.
So by the way, the fact that I was born in 1960 is a blessing because I got to spend my teens in the 70s when the best, to me, I think the best rock music was composed and created. So I'm very, very fortunate that I grew up with that. So to go back with Kiss, as far as like I was hanging with Guy Menard, a friend of mine, and then we start talking about Kiss, and then we have about the same level of passion together towards Kiss. And then I got this, we have a newspaper in Quebec that is created in Montreal, but it's also, you can have it in Quebec City. It's called Pop Rock. Mm-hmm. It's a newspaper, not a magazine. It's a newspaper. And Marie-France Rémillard is a journalist who writes for that. And then she did a article on Kiss in 1976 of a concert in Montreal. And then once in a while, they're going to add what's coming, the coming concert. I look at that, and then Kiss is coming in 1977. Now we're in about, like, I'm going to say April of 1977, and Kiss is coming in July in Montreal. I am 17 years old. Montreal is about 2 hours away. Am I going to get the okay from my parents to go there because it's a long trip? But the fact that I'm going with two friends of mine should give me the okay. So I go buy my Kiss tickets. This is a funny story, by the way. I go buy my Kiss tickets. We both go there. There's an old lady at the computer, very old computer, by the way. It's in 1977. And then she gives us our tickets, and she goes, "You guys have very good tickets. You will be in the third row." I said, "Third row? Wow." So we walk away, and like I'm going like, the only thing I know about Kiss is a few pictures, and especially Jane when he spits blood. And I'm going, I tell Guy, we might have to bring some like plastic covers because we might have blood on us when we go and watch that concert. This is how clueless I was about the entire event. I didn't know what to expect really, except some pictures that I've seen. And now I'm going like, anyway, we have to wait like two or three more months before the concert arrives. And then when it's time for the concert, we get the bus. We're all excited. We get there. We see the Forum, the Montreal Forum, where the venue was going to be. And when I got there, even outside, there was an electricity. There was like the crowd energy was already outside that venue. Then we go in, and inside, needless to say, it was almost like a circus. This is the very first time I brought my little, it was a 110 camera. And I snapped some pictures of the crowd, actually, that was there. So those have never been put on the internet, nothing. The very first was kind of cut because the film was not rolled perfectly, but you get an idea. This is like that kind of thing. There's a banner right there. Wow. The second one, there was a girl who was dressed like Case, and I thought it was cool, so she was coming in.
Cool.
Wow. I snapped that picture. She got a pretty cool T-shirt, too, with the S with the lightning. And there was two girls, and the quality is not great, but at least it's there, the memories.
Yeah.
And then this one had a pretty good banner.
Cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right? And then, so my seat happened to be not in the third row in the orchestra. It was a third row in the back up, but of that section, it was the third row of that section. Okay. But hey, I didn't care. I was there. I said, that's cool. So what I tried to do, I tried to go as close as possible from the stage. First of all, the first band was Cheap Trick, which was great. I did not know any song about Cheap Trick, but I enjoyed it. But then when it finished, that's when I tried to come a little bit closer. And there was security guard everywhere. You could not go on the floor. But I said, I want to go close. I want to be able to take maybe 4 or 5 pictures and then go back in my seat, which I did. So when it started, by the way, let me just clarify one thing. At that point, the only album of Kiss that I heard was Alive. Okay. I didn't hear any song about Detroit Rock City, Rock and Roll Over, or Love Gun. Love Gun just came out, by the way, just short before. So I knew Love Gun. That one I knew. I was okay with that one. So the show starts. Everything goes black. The crowd, it was very, very loud. And then you hear, the first thing that happened, they had a big disco ball in the middle of the Forum. Not over that stage. It was in the middle of the Forum. And they put all the big spotlight white on it. So it was like stars everywhere. Now, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. But then you can see the stage. It's in the dark. You can see the the stairs. You can barely see them, by the way. It's very, very dark. But you can see the two platforms upstairs. And then Gene is on one, and then Ace and Paul. You can barely see Ace and Paul, but Gene I was able to see because there was somehow a little door behind where you could see his silhouette. He's still in the dark, and you can hear a little bit of bass going on because he was kind of not tuning, but checking if it was working. And then he starts raising both hands like this. You can see the wings. I said, okay, this guy thinks he's on top of the world. This is cool. This is going to be good. Next thing that happens is, boom, the music starts, and now I see the stage. Give you a perspective how close I was. I wasn't that far. This is like the very first picture I took. You see the security guard that would not allow me to go on the floor, but this is how close I was. And when I saw that coming, that started with Detroit Rock City, and I was like, huh. I was like petrified. I could not even move. I was watching it, and I said, I'm trying to soak every memory that I can when it's playing. And then obviously Paul is all over the place, and it's like, I say, okay, I'm really loving this. I stayed there for about maybe 2 or 3 songs, and then I went back to my seat. And from my seat, obviously the 3 songs that I knew very well, I will never forget, was Firehouse, Rock and Roll All Night, and Black Diamond. And believe me, the Black Diamond still resonate in me because I can, when you go, ooh, I mean, it was perfectly, the harmony was so perfect. And when you go to Black Diamond, especially with Peter in it, it was like, okay, they almost puts a stamp on you, like you're petrified against a wall pretty much. That's how it was. So the concert, needless to say, now I was like still kind of numb from that. I was like, this was great. We took the bus back in Quebec City, 2-hour drive. And now it was too late. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning by the time I arrived. So I sleep at my friend's house. So there was an extra room. I slept there. And before I went to bed, there was a little night light. And I forgot to tell you, when I exited the forum, there was vendors outside, pirate vendors that were selling things. And you know those shots that were taking from Destroyer with all the stars behind?
Yeah, the sparkling session.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I bought a set of 5 pictures, the 4 of them, and then the group. And I also bought 2 posters, the Destroyer poster and the Love Gun poster, but kind of miler.
Yeah, I have
They're
them.
like good. So those are beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I also bought the tour book.
Yeah.
And I also bought some kind of a, like, you know, those flags that are like kind of cone like that.
Yeah.
There was a one that says a Cannes tour for Canadian tour 1977. And just before we went into to go to that concert, I bought a magazine called Rock Scene, and this is a very important part. I have never seen the stage like that before, because just before they used it in Japan, as you know, and so there was not much released yet because it was July, and the Rock Scene was the very first picture that I saw just before I entered to go see that particular concert. The pictures from Japan. So I said, oh, wow, look at that. The stage, they got the stairs and everything. And so those are the things that I bought. So when I went to bed, to go back to my story, I took those star pictures, and I'm looking at them, and I can see again Black Diamond. And by the way, this is like the last picture that I took.
Cool.
This is a very, very cool picture. This is how far I was, but at least I like kind of being far sometime for a concert versus being on the first row. Obviously, first row, it's good. But also when you're far, the sound is better, and you get the whole ensemble, how it looks like really.
Yeah.
And so when I was just I went to sleep, and I'm looking at that, and I got the sound resonated again. This is a moment of the Kiss time for me that is one of my favorite, because the happiness that I had in me and the comfort and the feeling I had, I said, I am about to embark a big journey here. And it's going to be very scary because I know how deep I can go. So that was the first kind of door opening for me, and I said, this is going to be fun. And then, so after that, if you have any questions, guys, just jump in. I know.
Just keep
fast.
on. We'll jump in when we.
If I speak too fast, just tell me also. I can slow down.
No problem.
Good?
No problem.
Okay. So the next step is Guy and I, we're kind of still hanging together, and then we're buying magazines again. I'm going to say the show was in July 12th, 1977. The very first magazine that I've seen there was a special on Kiss was Teen Favorite.
Yeah.
And it was a very good one. The second one that came after was the Cream.
Yeah.
Now most of my magazine that I have, they're in my big books, but I kept some also that I was buying in double and triple. So it was pretty expensive to buy magazines back in the 70s, especially when you have a small job. So this one was really one of my very favorite when it came out. It blew me away. The pictures were incredible. So then after that came, but my very favorite of all was The Groove. The very first Grooves was like, wow. Even the second one was good, but the first one I will never forget. They were like the most.
That's the one with the blue.
Correct.
The blue cover.
That is correct.
Yeah,
that's
the
one.
Great one. That's a great
that one is like I saw somebody one time on eBay was selling it for $180, and it's still for sale. Nobody's going to buy that at that price.
No.
But I would pay maybe $50 for it to have it again in one, intact. But me, when I had books like that, I had to, because of my books, I had to buy two of them so I can put one side and the other side, glued down instead of having it flipping. But anyway, that was like when I was buying magazines and I had this appetite for Kiss. And so those are kind of funny pictures. But when we started getting into Kiss, my friend and I, this is like one of the pictures that I had. I took a tennis racket. We're listening to Kiss, and then we put some fake blood, and then start throwing it. Then the very first pictures of me when I started putting makeup. I mean, this is very like rookie. And then
everybody has been there.
Yes, right. You look at that. We had no money, so he takes a fork and he goes and take a picture of him dressed like Gene. So this developed into doing a small concert in our basement, and a lip sync concert, of course. So there was probably one of the first tribute band of Kiss ever. That was back in August 1977. So I'm getting to the books now. So what happened to the books is I'm getting more and more magazines, and I put everything together. And I'm going like, all right, I want to do that. I like the very early, I mean, this is 1977, so there's only 4 years going on there, but I tend to like the 1973 and 74 pictures more than anything, even though 77 was a big year.
Well, same as me.
Yeah, see, I mean, I can, because I don't know, it's like underground, it's like underdog kind of thing, and you feel there's no fake in that. This is all real hardcore. And so my dad, his job was to be he was working in a print shop. And before he worked in that print shop, he was an apprentice for people who make books. So he had a very good skills on making books. So, and I remember when I was a kid too, we looked in our basement and there was those kind of large books that he made, and he was into movie stars. And he'd be writing a letter like in the 50s about Kirk Douglas, for example, to the company, and then he sent him back a picture autographed by Kirk Douglas, and he put together those big books. They were not as big as mine, and I said, this is pretty cool. But then he's the one who came to me and he said, you're getting a lot of things on Kiss. Why don't you do some books, big books? He said, I can help you. I said, that would be cool. I said, okay, good. So one day after work, he brings back some material, some large pages. And I mean, obviously those pages, the dimension are kind of very weird. They're not like exactly even, but they're like big enough for me. And the pages are very thick, which is good. So I start putting things together. And that's when I decided I'm going to do everything chronologically done. So from 1973 until 1977. Then he said, okay, you need some covers. So he gets some covers, and the very first time was a trial and error thing. They were a little too thin, and the glue that he used because it's like a vinyl leather that you're going to put over, and you have like the glue spray.
Yeah.
So that's why he did it, and he did it perfectly as far as how to fit it in the back. But then a few weeks later, it was coming off.
Okay.
He said, okay, now he said, we need to bring the big guns. And he had a very special glue that is like a cement block. And you have to plug the thing, and then it's going to melt. It takes about an hour for the glue to melt. But when you're going to glue something with that thing, it will never come off. And he got some thicker boards for my covers. Now the covers, I'm going to show you, this is very thick. I mean, this is like very, very, very thick. The back, he put a white piece of paper. This is number 8, by the way. That's the one that has the most signatures. You got Ace, you got Eric Singer, Eric Carr. It says to Roger. I'm sorry, to Roger, Eric Carr, and then you got
Peter.
Bruce Kulick. Bruce Kulick is right there, 1992. Paul Stanley, and Wes Peters right here, and Gene Simmons.
Yep.
You see Ace. Ace almost. It's funny because those guys are wrote there, and I got Ace kind of later, and then he still had all that open, so he took advantage of it, and that was great. He did it for the eight books, so that was like, that's good, right on. So you see the logo over here?
Yeah.
This is gold, 18 carats, and the way so what I did, I drew that logo, I gave it to my dad, and he gave it to a company that did a metal. This is metal. And what you do with that, you put it on iron, you make it very, very hot, and then you put the gold leaf, and the gold will be impregnated in there. And I still, actually, it's funny because I have a sample of the gold leaf, and it's still the volume 8.
Wow.
It's kind of hard to see, but the volume 8 is there.
Cool.
And with my name on the bottom. So he said, there you go. I'll give you some extra fold, and just in case you need it for near future. So at that point,
how many books do you have now?
I was going to get to that. I have 8, but at the time when we did that the very first time, I think I had 5.
Okay.
I had 5 books, and then the collection kept growing and growing. And I told my dad, I said, I think I'm going to have to plan on getting more covers. So if I need to increase, that way you don't have to always go back and get the books done. So he said, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And he did 8 books, 8 covers and 8 back covers. So that was 12 covers. And I'm sorry, 16 covers altogether. Yeah. And so now I was all set for that. And I started making my books. And the thing about my personal choice of pictures is going to go in there. I am into detail as far as like unusual details. For example, you can have all the pictures that will come out of magazines, and you're going to love it. You're going to love it because when you have a magazine, they're going to take their best pictures ever. But if they have a picture that they did not like too much because you can see the back brick wall that is next to that drum set, this is what I love. If there's like a sign of a Bank of Canada that is behind that you cannot see, you see only on a picture that they decided not to publish, I want that picture. This is what I love. A man that is a little bit like that, not a little bit like that, very much like that, is Ross Radley, if you know him. Yeah. Ross Radley is writing a book right now, and his book is called Magic Kiss Chronicle 1973 to 1983. It's not out yet, but when it comes out, it's going to be like the Bible of Kiss because it's going day by day about things. And he came to my house, and we did a video together, him looking at my books, and he's going and explaining every pictures, because we share the very same passion, him and I, on detail on the early Kiss. So that was very cool on that. But what's in the books? The books are, you could make books too if you want to by taking. There's like thousands and thousands of pictures on the nets now. You can go ahead and print those and make books like that. What's special about my books is that I decided to go and use magazines, articles, pictures, and for professional photographers, as well as personal ones as well.
Yeah.
And by doing a combination of that, and newspaper, of course. The newspaper I love that. And so when you get all that together, now it comes to a point that you have so much stuff that you need to select what you're going to put in there. So at the very beginning, of course, when you start doing that, it's a trial and error again on that. You're going to put some stuff, you're going to look at the page, and when you look at the page, if you don't fall in love with it, you go, there's something wrong with that. But also you were very limited on what you had on Hotel Diplomat, for example. I didn't have that many pictures to do a nice page. So sometimes I'd have to mix other pictures with it to make the page look okay. And I was still not that happy with that. So that's why my books are always reinventing itself, and they get better and better now because I have access to more pictures. So the more I went, and this is a good thing to say, is that the way I was getting my equipment and my material was through pen pals. In the 70s, there was no internet, like I said, and so what I would do, I would find on the back of magazines, there would be somebody from Sweden or Japan or Italy. So I started getting pen pals from around the world, but I was very, very particular and meticulous to choose pen pals that were not Kiss fans. So it'd be Rolling Stones or Queen or Beatles, and then so they can send me the good Kiss stuff instead of them keeping everything. So because I had tons and tons of piles of magazines, of rock magazines, then I started doing the tedious task of taking all the bands and doing envelopes with all those bands. It took a long time to do that, but I was ready. I had 2 big boxes of all the bands, and I'd find those pen pals. And like once a month or once every 2 months, I'd be receiving a nice fat envelope of Kiss from around the world, and it was very cool. And some of them I'd never seen before, obviously. Even I had 2 friends, two girls. One was Liz Lebel, and the other one was Elise Dufresne. And they share the same passion as I had, and they were collecting also through pen pals things from around the world. And I remember every week we'd be calling each other. I just received an envelope. You got to come over and see that. So I'd take in my car and I'd go and see what she had and go like, oh my God, I can't believe you had that. So we were friends for a very long time like that, comparing items. And I don't want. Yeah, maybe I can jump to that one there because I was friend with them. The next time I saw Kiss was in 1979, Dynasty. Yeah. So this one, This was a fun one. I really, really enjoyed that. Even though most of the Kiss fans, they say that, okay, the stage was naked and that there's not that many positive things coming through. I had a ball for that concert. I really, really enjoyed that time. I'm going to say that it was probably the time where I was like it was scary for me. I mean, if I saw Kiss, I would have probably passed out if I met him backstage. Okay, it was that serious. I was dreaming about them without makeup sometime. I said, I swear I know how they look like. I dreamed about it. But so again, it was in Montreal. This time we were ready. The very first day the ticket went on sale, I was waiting in line in Quebec because it was kind of connected. Sometimes it opens maybe a few minutes after the people that are in Montreal to get the tickets. So the best I could do was a 10th row on the floor. I was happy with that. So we got tickets for myself, my brother Steve, and four of our friends, and Liz and Elise were in there. And so we arranged to do the trip, and we meet in Montreal, and we kind of separate in two groups. It was myself, my brother, and a girl, and then Liz and Elise and her sister. They went their way, and now the thing is, Marie-France Rémillard, the journalist, she was saying where Kiss were staying on the first interview. They were staying at the Meridian Hotel in Montreal. So I said, okay, more than likely they will stay at the same hotel. We got to go there. So we're going there and we're hanging in the lobby. They know that too, but they went somewhere else. And turns out that when the show started, we met inside. We did not get lucky. We thought we saw somebody that kind of looked like Gene, but it was not Gene. And they were all excited. They come to us and they say, we met Gene. I said, what? He said, yeah, we met Gene. We spent about 20 minutes with him, talking with him, and we even took a picture of him. I said, you got to be kidding. I couldn't believe it. I said, this is like, wow. And so this is what they did. When they spent 20 minutes with Gene, it was in a food court in the basement. Because in Montreal, everything is underground, most of everything, because in the winter. So there was a food court down there, and they met Gene there, because Gene likes to go incognito and see fans, and you know how he is. So he started talking with them, and they had a chance, because they're speaking in French, and Gene loves to speak different languages, so he was talking in French with them, and he was kind of saying a few things about to them. And then Liz actually gave me a little piece of paper that Gene was writing things. And she teared up the paper, she cut it, and she gave me 3 words that Gene was writing. I still have it to this day. He was talking about the difference you pronounce the word favor.
Cool.
And so you can see it. I mean, this is like authentic. There's no joke about this. And so that was cool. I put that in a small box, and I kept it. And I still have it, obviously. And then the picture that they took of him, they said at the end, they said, could we take your picture? And he said, hold on, I need to set myself. So what he did, I'll show it to you real quick here. So this is a picture.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
his
Very
ring
cool.
really good, and he was doing it's almost like when he was with Cher. This is very similar to that.
Yeah.
So he has his sunglasses, he's got his eyes closed, but he's showing pretty much himself. That was pretty awesome. When I saw the picture, I went down. I said, okay, that's really him. There's no joke there. This is real. And I sent Russ Radley.
Yeah.
I sent him this picture. So, but again, now just before that concert, one very important thing about this concert. Before I went there, I saw a friend of mine and I asked him if I can borrow his 35 millimeter camera because I wanted to take pictures at the time. I was like a lion at that point. I said I need pictures. I need a lot of things, and I never taken pictures with a camera like that. So I bought 5 films for 36 pictures each. So in the 10th row, I start taking pictures. And by the way, I had the makeup on. I was all dressed up, and I was taking pictures with that camera on the makeup and everything. I didn't care. So took the first film. It went fine. The second film went fine. The third film, this is kind of a nightmare story. It was a good period during the entire concert. And then at the end, those camera at the very end, if you want to re-roll the whole film, you got to push a button underneath. And I did not push hard enough. And I did not know that. So I was trying to re-roll, but it was stuck. So now I said, what am I doing? Because I have 2 more films to take, and the best is coming for the drum elevating and everything. So I opened the camera, and I took the film out.
Wow.
So I threw that one on the floor. I know that kind of killed me a little bit. So at least, anyway, I lost only 1 film. Instead of having only 2 filmed of picture taken, I took 2 more after. So I had 4 rolls that I was able to take. And some of them were good. Some of them are blurry, but it was cool though. I mean, some of them came out pretty good. And before that concert, by the way, I like to take pictures of it's like Christmas. Christmas is cool, but the day before Christmas is also even more fun. The anticipation is there. So I was taking pictures of the big trucks when they unload the equipment. I took pictures of that. That was kind of cool. The trucks were flashy. They were all like in mirror kind of thing. It was all like a metallic silver, and then you could see yourself in them. Wow, they're using even high-tech trucks for their for the entire equipment and road. So in the concert, when it started, they came out with the platform. I don't have to tell you that.
The colors and stuff.
Yeah.
I could barely see them because everybody was standing on top of their chairs. I'm only 5'6", so obviously, but I had my Paul's boots. I have 7 inches to elevate me, able to see. But then everybody sat down after that. They started watching the show. It was not like everybody would be rushing and try to get the first row. It was civilized. People were crazy, but civilized. And everybody, maybe the first or second song, people were up, but then everybody sat down. That was cool. Now I was able to take good pictures. Speaking of pictures, a little note here. I have of the 1977 and the 1979, I gathered over 1,000 pictures of those, and mostly in slides. And that's from what I took and friends of mine that had and I wanted to have copies, and I have all those. And some of them are for example, in 1977, before the show starts, there's an incredible shot of the stage with the black drapes over them. And you can see the stairs in between. And that picture is cool because I think the pictures that are before the show starts, when the white light on and you see the crowd, that I just love that kind of stuff because this is raw. This is not mounted, and it's like arranged that people are posing for you. This is as it comes.
In 79, then how many books did you have at the time then?
At the time, I was probably still with 5 books.
5 books, okay.
Still 5 books, and I'm still more into. One thing I should point out. At that point, in 1978, I told my brother Steve. I said, "Listen, I'm going to have everything about Kiss." Now I was probably at the summon of my crisis, my fever, my Kiss fever. It was scary now. And all the money I had was going to Kiss. I mean, everything was going there.
How was the merchandise in Canada? Did you have the Mega Dolls? Did you have the lunchbox?
Did not get the lunchbox, and I was never able to find that there. It's a good question because in Quebec City, Montreal, there was more items than in Quebec City where I was. That's why I had to be very creative how I'm going to get my equipment. I did a lot of trips in Montreal, obviously, to find things. At one time, I did a trip to Toronto, Canada. That was crazy. I found so much stuff there. I spent quite a bit of money there. But when I was in Quebec, there's some lots of posters were coming our way. Most of the magazines. But as far as like pins or necklace, belt buckle you can find. But those necklaces and the things from Aucoin in 1977, very difficult to find there, particularly in Quebec City. There was no specialty stores really. You had to go in newsstand stores and like the Walmart or things like that. You could find some generic Kiss items. I had a connection in Montreal. There was this man that was selling bootlegs. And because he had quite a few customers that would buy Kiss items when he was going on trips. He'd go to Europe and he'd go to the US and get the very limited vinyl for radio. He'd get all those, come back, and it would be me and two other guys that would be auctioning kind of thing. Would be, okay, I want those ones, and you guys can have those ones. And it was almost like a fight, but it was a way to get those rare to find items. So I ended up with over 170 posters of Kiss. That was back in 1980. 1980, I had an incredible amount of Kiss memorabilia. I had a lot. I ended up with the dolls. And something funny about the dolls is my cousin, that was at the time when Cher and Jean were together. So she had the Cher doll, so she gave it to me. So when I had it on the display, I put Jean and Cher together. That was kind of fun. This is a big one here. I met this friend. He was introduced to me by a friend of mine that was a Kiss fan. He said, you may want to talk to this guy. So he came over with a binder. And when he got to my basement, I was about 20 years old at that point. And he starts telling everything that the guy was traveling to the United States, which was very unusual to have a friend in their 20s that goes to the United States. Well, this guy, believe it or not, was lucky enough to witness the very first Hotel Diplomat concert of Kiss.
Wow.
Yeah. And this guy is not going to be the type of guy that's going to create a story to trying to impress you. Because I became friend with him, and you will see later how this guy is. His name is Daniel Boutin. And he's been around. He has the ability to go where any of us couldn't go. He had this wheezy way to infiltrate himself, to unlock doors. I mean, it's crazy. So he starts opening this binder, and there's a few things, mostly about different band, but they had one thing about Kiss. When he went to see the Hotel Diplomat concert, he took the poster off the wall, and he had it all. But because you're going to die on this one, because of the binder that he had, it was 8x10 size. He cut the poster to get the rock and roll ball with Kiss, so he can fit it. And so all the advertisement and place and the venue and the price of ticket, he discarded that. So he kept the rock and roll ball with Kiss, and he had it in there. And I look at that, I said, "Oh my God!" And I bought it for him, from him. I got it, and I put it in a frame. I put it on my wall, and I ended up actually one day. Well, you'll see later, because I met Paul at one point, and Paul actually wrote on it, "This is original Paul Stanley," and I had my picture taken with him, and I ended up selling this thing. I don't know why, but I did. But to go back on the equipment and everything, the books are growing, and I'm adding more pictures, but still it's going kind of slow as far as getting the very, very cool stuff, because now it's 1980, 1981. I'm in a band, I'm singing for a band, so I'm my energy now is going towards performing, so it's not too much towards Kiss. Yeah, if there's a cool magazine that's going to come out, I'm going to go get it, but I'm not going to go and buy a poster now at that point. The money is going more for the equipment for the band.
Was it just the band, or was 80, 81 a low period for you also? Because there's a lot of I found a lot of Americans and Canadians that
For Kiss?
have thought that was like a low period.
My low period was The Elder. I was still into it.
Yeah.
I really seriously, I did enjoy it. I love that. And after that, I moved to Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. And there was a period where, first of all, I spoke only French. I knew a little bit of English, but not much. And that was when I immersed myself into a crowd that speaks only English. So I was very like, okay, forget everything that is around you. You got to focus into your new future here. First time living by myself. I was in an apartment with friends. And I still go see concerts. I go to a club and see bands. But now it's somehow Kiss is not as important now. And I remember that Creatures of the Night came out.
Yeah.
And when I was in Calgary, they were playing in Quebec, so I missed it. So a friend of mine took incredible pictures, by the way. And then when I decided to go back to Quebec, that's when they were playing over there. So I missed the entire tour of Creatures of the Night.
Wow.
So I started getting a little bit back into Kiss, but not as much as I was before, because the money was not going all into Kiss. So now what's happening is... okay, I'm still into Kiss, but then here comes Lick It Up. Lick It Up comes in. Okay, oh boy, now this is how really they look like. You get a good look at them, and they decide to do a tour. So my books, because we're talking about the books, this is when they became kind of a ticket to go backstage. And you can see, I mean, when you have to carry those suckers, they're like 35 pounds. They're very heavy. And I think 8 of them. At that point, I have 8 now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go somewhere, I don't bring just one book. I bring the 8 of them, because in case I see them, I want them every covers to be signed. So that's very I have to have somebody with me to carry all that. So the very first time I got to see Kiss personally was in March 12, 1984, Lick tour. So now I'm there and I go like, how am I going to do this? I know the only person I know really that can meet Kiss is Marie-France Rémillard, that the lady from Montreal, and I think that she's going to stay in Montreal. So I'm not even calling her, try to get a connection. I have to do everything by myself now. I said, how am I going to do this? I said, okay, the concert is at 12. On the 11th, I'm talking with my brother. We get the phone. I called the airport in Quebec, and I said, how many flights are arriving tonight? They said 1. It does arrive at 8:30 or 9. I said, good. I take a suitcase and I put my first book in the suitcase, shut it, get in the car, and we go to the airport. And the plane landed. And now I'm there with my suitcase at the gate, and I'm watching everybody coming in, see if I can see Kiss, but obviously no one of them. But I see 2 businessmen. One has a black leather case, and the other one had like the Anvil cases. It's a case like that, about like this size, and it has Dean Markley guitar strings on it. That was it for me. That's all I needed to see. So now they go to the carousel waiting for their suitcase to arrive. That gives me plenty of time to talk to them. So I go next to them and I said, excuse me, are you somehow related with, and my English is just okay. I had 1 year of practice in Calgary to speak English. So I go, are you somehow related with the band Kiss? They said, actually, yes, we are. And I said, I'd like to show you something. So I unzip my suitcase and I start flipping the book. And they're looking. I mean, it's too bad that those pictures are in one of my books. I would love to show you the picture of those 2 guys. They look like businessmen. They don't look at all like Kiss crew. And they're looking at that, and they said the magic line. They said, oh, Gene and Paul would love to see that. I said, could you arrange something? I really would like to show that. They said, absolutely. So he gives me his business card, and he said, come to the forum tomorrow. I'm at the Coliseum, where that's where it was in Quebec. He says, come tomorrow, and he said, we'll just open the door, and you can bring the stuff in. I did not sleep that night. I did not. I got home, and I started working on putting more pictures in them, but at that point, it really did not matter. But I had to work in the books somehow to try to calm my nerves down, I guess. So the day after, I'm with my brother, and we load all the books in the car, and it happens there was a snowstorm that day. It wasn't bad. I mean, it takes a big snowstorms in Quebec to shut everything down. Believe me,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like you
the
get
same here.
sure you're totally
Yeah,
equipped.
it's the same here.
In the U.S., you get about a half an inch of snow, and everything is shut for 2 days.
Yeah.
Over there, you can 5 inches, and everything is normal.
Yeah.
So we get in the back. Now, if something I'd like to describe to you is that the feel, the atmosphere that is at that point, and this is very important to me. When I got there was not that many cars in the back. The big trucks were there. I'm gonna say we arrived there like around noon, maybe 11:30 noon, and we have to. Each books, by the way, are wrapped in a plastic garbage bag to protect from the sun and the air. So we're carrying those one by one, and I go to the back door. I knock. I see somebody walking by because there was barely anybody in the back. Now, there's a big difference between Dynasty Tour when everybody is in the back and the security is very tight. You cannot even go in. No one could go in unless you get a pass. And then there we go. Now we're there in the back knocking at the door. They open the door. We get the book, and they bring us in the dressing room. I thought it'd be like somewhere in the room. In the dressing room. One guy brings us there, and we do several trips, and the guy goes away. It's my brother and I. We don't have a backstage pass yet. We get in there, and we put all the books down, and I'm standing there in the middle of the dressing room. Behind me, I took pictures of that, by the way, which I posted in my books. I haven't I did the video on that, but so there's a picture of a table with food on it. And then the other side is where Kiss was going to be dressed up. And it was like each set, because no, it was not full makeup. It was more like, the rouge and the foundation that they would put on. But then what amazed me, like Paul, for example, it was a trunk that was open with all his jacket was in there, his scarves and things like that. But then was on the floor, there was like a paper mat, a cheap paper mat with slippers on them. So almost like, okay, you guys are going to, this is a VIP lounge, right? And everything's going to be ready for when they arrive. So I'm looking at that, but the fact that there's nobody there, and in the corridor, there's no sound. There's nothing going on. There's a few sound far. That's people bringing they're building the big tank right now. And there's not that many people doing it either. And you can tell that there's no, the crew is kind of, I don't know if it's not tired, but they're not like Kiss fan, or they're not involved into it. When in 79, everybody was like psyched up. You'd be proud to be in a Kiss crew. It was very different type of crew that I was looking at. And so when everything is there, I told Steve, I said, let's go in the audience and just watch them building the whole stage. So we sat down. We were the only people in there. We're sitting down and I'm taking pictures, right, of them setting up the whole tank. But something was strange is there was never a sound check. Okay. So I go back in the corridor and I see Marie-France Rémillard. I didn't know that she would show up at that concert. I said, hey, how are you? And we start talking. And that's when she told me that the concert almost got canceled because Gene had like a problem with one of his inflated kidneys. He had a problem. And he was sick. But I guess, those guys, they will take a lot to cancel a concert. Yeah. So they showed up at very late. But before I get to that, the only sound check that I experienced was for a period of about 2 minutes. The PA system, they went like, there was a sound that went for 2 minutes, like if it was a Boeing passing by. That's what it sounds like. That was the only sound check that was done. And then they were setting up the stage for Accept in front. They got no sound check whatsoever. Okay, just saying. Then I got in the corridor. Now I want to go back in the dressing room. I found out that they're in there. Now I cannot go in. Now I'm going like, oh my God. What I wanted to have, obviously, was the signature on my books. I don't have one signature yet in them. And they're all in there. Vinnie Vincent, Eric Carr, Paul Stanley, and Gene Simmons. And my books are all in there. They don't know that they're in there because they're wrapped in plastic. And I said, oh my God, what am I missing here? So now I'm freaking out kind of thing. But I'm disappointed is the way to say it. So the door finally opens. The first one to come out was Vinnie Vincent. And he was walking by. And then, by the way, just to paint a picture on this, in the corridor, there's maybe, I'm going to say maybe 25 people that are there waiting for them. Some people, I don't know, maybe they won a free contest to be backstage, and they're ready to record a few things from them. So they spent about half an hour in that corridor mingling with people, and then Paul Stanley comes out. Paul was my favorite, obviously. Now, even though Gene has the most thing in common with me because of the monsters and the comics and superheroes, Paul is really the one that I like the best. And so Paul came out. I could not have like a conversation one-on-one on him because there's too many around. But Gene was pretty cool. He was by himself, and this is a picture that I snapped.
Cool.
Wow.
I make up. He's right in front of me, and he's holding a mic now. This is a radio station in Quebec City called CJRP, and people were asking him to do like a small line, like "Hi, this is Gene Simmons. You're listening to CJRP, rock on," or things like that. So that's what he was doing there. He was doing a small message, and then one time he posed for me, and he did a big smile, a kind of a fake big smile. It was funny, and this picture actually is in the books that I have. But then
it could be the reason why he's wearing a sweatshirt, because
that's
he was
what I
sick.
thought too. Actually, you know what? If you look closely, I mean, I don't have. Let me see. I have another pictures in concert here. No, the two that I picked here with Paul. This is how close I was in the first row.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Staking. And there's a lot of those. I took quite a few, and the one that I have, Gene, the sweatshirt that he has no sleeves. So he's having another shirt underneath with long sleeves, black, and he's having the creature's shirt over it without the sleeves. You can see it's cut over here.
Yeah.
And you can see by his face too. Oh, this is fun things. When he was doing those interview things, there's a kid that came next to him. He said, "Can you do that?" And he did something with his tongue where his tongue got very big inside, and it was like some kind of a trick. He goes, "Okay," and he tried it. And of course, he did it right away. He said, "Can you do that?" And I was literally 1 foot away from him when he did it to the kid. He was laying down like this. The tongue stuck out. He rolled it like a cigarette.
Yeah.
And he was spinning it like 2 turns, and it was like a drill going.
I've seen him doing that later also.
It was like, oh my God, okay, kid, sit down now and relax. That's how it was. So that was the thing that I saw that was kind of cool about Gene. And then, so now they're all walking slowly towards the stage. I can't believe this is like a lot of Kiss fans would like to experience that, walking with Kiss towards the stage. Because usually, you're cut. You cannot go any further. But I'm walking with them. And then I'll never forget this. I'm standing next to Gene Simmons behind the stage. The big curtain is there. You hear the crowd. Everything is black. And Gene is like this. He's got his arm crossed like that with his bass. And I'm like 2 feet away from him, next to him, and I'm looking at him. And now is a bad time to speak to him he's about to go on stage. I'm not going to tell him I have my book and it's a bad time. But here comes the guy that let me in, that I met the day before. And he wants to talk casually with Kiss. He goes with Gene, and he goes, "Have you seen this guy's books?" He said, "No." He said, "You should see that. They're the big books, everything on you guys and everything." And Gene goes, "Really?" And that was it. And then he goes in. And when I saw them going up the stairs. They started the show. And then I'm talking to Craig. The name of the guy was Craig. And I said, "I can't believe I missed it. He did not sign the books. I could not see them." He goes, "You come." So I go back in the dressing room, and there's another man looking at the books now. When I walk in, he's looking at my books. He's the tour manager. He goes, "Those are incredible." And I go, "Can you do something? I really want to get them to sign them." He said, "Oh yeah, come at the hotel, Concord Hotel, later." So needless to say, okay, when the show, they did the first encore, the second encore. By the way, there was only 4,500 people in a place that can have over 10,000 people. It was very pitiful, but they still put the show. Paul was doing the show like if it was 20,000 people. I have given that. But
it was an amazing tour. It was my first tour also. It's incredible.
Yeah, that was your first one?
Yeah.
Nice. Very good memory. I enjoyed it. I took a lot of good pictures, and So before the last encore, I left. I did not want to miss my shot now because I had to bring all the stuff in my car, go to the hotel, and I wanted to be there when they arrived because I know how fast they leave after a concert. So now my brother and I were putting everything back in the car. We're going there, and then we arrived in the hotel. We put everything in a valet cart. The book all piled up, this big stack. And then they all come in. It's like 20 below zeros outside. They come in. Jane is all sweaty. He's got a towel around. And I say, Gene, the books are there. He said, okay, let's go look at them. I said, don't you want to go take a shower? Because I thought he would be inviting me upstairs and do something. He said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll go upstairs, shower, and come back later. I said, okay. So they all went up. And then the first one to come down was Eric Carr. And you can tell Eric wanted to see the girls. So when he arrived, we were about, I'm going to say we're about maybe 15 people to 20 in the lobby waiting for them. And I was sitting, there were couches. I was sitting in a couch with the cart in front of me. And then somebody, a friend of mine, got Eric to come and look at the books. And I'm very meticulous about the books. So I allow Eric to sign only the books where he was in.
Yeah.
So there was 4 books that he is in. Let me see. I got some pictures when he signs, actually. Where did I put that? Oh, yeah, they're right here. You can see. He always wears this bracelet.
Yeah.
The black bracelet he has there. And then the other pictures that I have, when you see his face, it's in the books. So this is one of the pictures that I decided not to put in the books. And then the second one that arrived after that, it's too bad. Vinnie Vincent never came down. That was my one shot to get Vinnie Vincent's autographs. I don't have it. But Paul came down. So that's me with Paul right there. And when Paul went down, he came back at 1 o'clock. It was like almost 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:31. And he came in directly to the books. He sat down on the couch. Now there's about maybe 8 of us around. And we're just watching him. Sometimes we ask him questions, but not that many questions. He was very, very nice, but he totally got absorbed in it. He did not miss a page, by the way, on the first book. He was going every one of them. So when I have somebody that looks at the books, usually they're gonna go and kind of pass the pages because they're limited in time. He went every single pages, and the very first thing that he wrote on the first cover, he said, "What a book, Paul Stanley." That's what he wrote. That was my first signature on the first book because Eric was not allowed to sing on that one. It was dead center. I said, that's perfect. The angel was singing and everything. I was top of the world at that point. I say, I got Paul, I'm good now, right? Then he takes a second book. I said, oh, wow, this is good. Now he's already spent like 25 minutes on the first book. Now he's going for the second one. And the second one had the Japan session as well in there. And one thing I can tell you that it was kind of unusual is when he got to the Japan, I put the interview of Playboy, the 1977 December. Yeah. He read the entire thing.
The whole article.
There was not a person talking because he was focused, and he was like this, and he kept reading it and reading it. I said, oh my God. And it took like a good 10 minutes, solid 10 to maybe 12 minutes to read the whole thing. And then he kept going. Another thing that was kind of unusual, when he got to the third book, there was the share section. He passed that very, very quick. He did not like that part. Okay, I can assure you that. That was like, wow. And then we kept going a little further, and then he stayed. Okay, he had to be in Montreal the day after at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now it's 3 o'clock in the morning. He went from 12:30 to 1 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the morning looking at those books.
Wow.
So I said, okay, he loved them. For sure, he loved them. And I remember he was going back in the elevator. I was like, I got my picture taken several times with them. That's when he sang the Rock and Roll Ball with Kiss. This is original Paul Stanley. Yeah. And that was my first experience of meeting Paul Stanley. And it was almost like he was a personal friend because of what we had going on there. I was like, wow, this is it. I don't think it can get better than that. And my friend who took the pictures, I said, I hope your role is going to be developed correctly. I want to see those pictures like very well. And then, of course, they came out good. So that was the very first time that I met.
Did Gene look at them also then, or?
Gene never came down.
He never came down.
No, that's how sick he was. That's how sick he was.
Eric.
I was crushed. I said, "Oh my God, I had a chance to see Gene." So let's see. We talked about the Quebec encounter with Kiss with me, and so let me go to the second time that I met them, and that's going to be when I had a chance to see Gene. Yeah. It was at the Limelight, New York, and the Limelight in New York, they have this church that they converted into a nightclub. It's called the Limelight, and obviously, and then. Ace was going to perform over there on June 26th, 1988. And so I was in Quebec City. Now that's a long trip from Quebec to go to New York. Mm-hmm. It's about 7.5 hours to go there, driving. And so I got those tickets, went there. And Daniel Boutin, that man I was telling you that had the rock and roll ball with Kiss, comes with me. Now I know I'm going to go anywhere with them. But see, every time I got to meet Kiss with the books, it was very, very, it was always a day before that I would do the move. And the book would be the one that would allow me to go to do whatever I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So that time we went the day before, which was June 25th. It's a Saturday night in New York. So think about that. If you want to try to go to a club, there's a line that goes about 2 blocks just to go in that place. Mm-hmm. And there's those big bouncers at the door. And I go see, I bring one book with me wrapped in plastic, green plastic bag. And I have it on my shoulder, and I go see the bouncer at the door, there are 2 of them. And I said, I'd like to see the owner. Mm-hmm. So he's got radio, and he says, Tony, there's someone that wants to see you here. Now I say, okay, Tony, okay, that sounds a little bit like mafia or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was kind of weird. And I go like, okay. And he goes, okay, follow me. So we follow this guy, and me and Danielle, and there's 2 guys behind following us. I said, that guy's protected, okay. So we get in the big office. There's a huge desk, and there's Tony behind the desk, and there's another guy talking to him. So we walk in, now they stop talking, obviously, and they look at us, and I put the book on his desk. I open the plastic bag, and I take out the book, and it's a Kiss book. When he saw it was a Kiss book, Tony goes, okay, guys, you go. So the bodyguards, they went out, and I say, I just want to take the proper channel to do things. I don't want to try to infiltrate myself, but I said, tomorrow there's an Ace concert, and I would like to be able to bring those books. I have 8 of them, and I'd like to get them signed. He said, you're in luck, because the guy that's standing next to me is their tour manager. Cool. So I said, okay, good. And by the way, I was dressed with a suit and tie. Mm-hmm. Like, not like a bum or nothing like that. So we go in, say the speech, and he goes, okay, come back tomorrow. He doesn't give me any backstage pass. He just tell Tony told you to go in. So I guess that was good enough. Mm-hmm. And the day after, obviously, we bring all the books. And they're early. The show... God, I try to give you a time. Obviously, I'm the kind of person who has a phobia of being late on anything. So I was there very early, okay? When I walked in, you have to understand, it's a church, so it's huge, but the back, there's a lot of room in the back. And the backstage is on the second floor. Third floor. Mm-hmm. And it's huge. You can put 80 people in there. And there's a bar in that backstage area. And it's not like bright light. It's like a club. So it's perfect backstage area venue. So I get in there and I bring all my books. There's like couches everywhere, by the way. So I put my books on the couch and I start. There's maybe 10 to 15 people that are there, and they're all obviously invited guests. Most of the people that were coming to this show were either a guitar tech from 1976 that was for Kiss. A fun one. I had my books. There's somebody who comes and look at the books, and he sees the Groove magazine cover. He said, I'm the publisher of Groove. Cool. I'm the one who did it. I said, sign please. I gave him the pen, and he signed it with an arrow next to the, it was the one when you see Paul, the cover was Paul with the Dynasty outfit, if you remember that one. That's the one that he signed next to it. I said, my God, I'm meeting people that I would never know who they are if I didn't ask them, right? And then I'm there, I'm like sitting there. Now, meantime, Daniel disappeared. Okay, he's not nowhere nearby. That's because he's working his thing now. He is, you'll never believe, he ended up go to see Ace downstairs. Okay, but meanwhile, I don't know this. I'm meeting those people. I'm having people sign in there. And then who comes in? Oh, no, before I get to that, Daniel comes back up. There's still not that many people in here. And he goes and he said, Roger, bring all the books now. Ace is waiting for you downstairs. I said, are you kidding me? Okay, we get, with the three of us, we bring all the books downstairs. Now I get in the room. Ace is in the corner, and there's a couch, 2 chairs, and a little night table with so many bottles of alcohol in there. And the alcohol is all spilled. So forget about putting the books on that table. Even if I clean the bottles, there's alcohol everywhere. So I put the books on the couch, and then I start opening one of them, and then Ace comes and he starts signing everything with the card. That's 8 times. He could have just, he did not turn one page, by the way. He was getting ready for the concert. He was in the mood. He was he was getting ready. And then, but the fact that he signed everything, I was like shocked that he did everything perfectly. So I raised my hat to Ace on this one. It was like, thank you, sir. You did very, very well. Cool. And then after that, we took the book. We went back upstairs. And so if it was not for Daniel, I don't think I would have had a chance, because after the concert, when he came back in the VIP lounge and everything, there were rope, and there was too many friends of his that wanted to meet him. So I got very lucky to get that. So now I'm back upstairs. Who do I see? Bill O'Coin.
Cool.
I said, okay, this is good. This is very, very good. I like this now. So, oh, by the way, here. I kind of prepared a little bit of pictures with me. So this is when Ace was singing. You've seen that if you saw the books.
It's so cool that you took photos of everything. I like that. I like that very much.
It is so important for me to have pictures. That's why now, like when I went to the LA Kiss show a few weeks ago, you get Peter signing something. I said, can I take a picture so I can authenticate that he signed? They said, no, you can't. We're down to that now.
But it's real strange, because we're so many. It's like, I met them in 83, no pictures. I met Paul in 84, no pictures. I met them at the airport in Oslo in 92, no pictures.
Oh, but you could have though, right?
Yeah, I could, but it's like
you didn't think about
pictures. It was like I have some video. Yeah, you have.
Oh, there we go. That's nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Good. Well, when Bill O'Coin, when I met him, I said. I started showing him. Oh, by the way, at that point, my books are not on the couches anymore. Oh. Now they're in the back room. Okay, so there's a huge room that has about for 80 people. It's a huge room. In the back, there's what they call a dark room. It's for a photographer if he wants to go develop pictures. So there's a small room in the back. That's where my books are for now. They're protected. I mean, you can lock the door if you need to. And Vince was the paparazzi that was there that was using that room. And I don't know what his last name is, but I'm sure in the paparazzi world in those days, he's a very well-known person, Vince. So I go in the back, and I have Bill O'Coin looking at the books. Now, beside having Paul telling story, by the way, to go back when Paul was looking at the books for 2 hours, when he was saying something, I tried to make him write as many things as possible. Like when they were on top of the Empire State Building, I said, is this really a trick picture, or were you really there? He said, we were there. I said, write it down, please. So he wrote top of the Empire State Building. When they're like backstage with the Nassau Coliseum, I said, write it down. So I tried to make him write as much as possible. That kind of add more character and rich to the books, which is fun. That's why I have Sean Delaney wrote in there. I have, what's his name? The guy from the Groove magazine. So when I have people like that writing, and Bill O'Coin, by the way, is the only one that I allowed to sign my cover #1.
Cool.
And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
So now he's there looking at the books. And I'm trying to get, there's only him and I, there's nobody else in that little room. And I'm trying to get as much information as possible. The one information I got out of him, now you have to realize 1988, you don't have all the information that we have now. There's so many books that came out on KISS. We know all the back stories and everything. In those days, everything was like, we need to see the expert to tell us exactly what happened. So now I was getting some good stories. For example, when they're on top of the Empire State Building, I said, you know what? A few months ago, I went on top of the Empire State Building. I did not see where they're sitting on, because it's like a grill, and I didn't see that when I was on top. He said that's because in 1976 they were doing the movie King Kong, and they had a platform there for the filming, and that's where they sat on. That platform is no longer there. Okay. I said, okay. So I said, write it down. So he wrote platform for King Kong. on it. So I made him write that. And then he was explaining to me that his name is William Guy Aucoin. And Guy is a French name. And I was French. So he was telling me about that. And I said, okay, cool. And then for me, he did it only twice in my books. He wrote William Guy Aucoin.
Yeah,
and when I showed that to Roman actually is the one who said to me, he said, "This I've never seen that. It's like very rare that Bill would sign Guy on his autographs."
That's what all his friends call him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Guy Aucoin. Yeah. Guy. So I wish I had a picture of that, and I did. I took only one picture of Bill Aucoin. And thank God I did, and it's a good one. So this is the one.
Cool.
Wow, it's very cool.
So I'm very excited. You see his smile. You see he's very happy to look at them. You see the pride. So you know what? This is what I see when I look at that picture. He's got pride in his face. He's very proud, even though, you know, it's after they broke up with Kiss and stuff, but he was invited. He wanted to be part of that. And by the way, that particular concert that Ace did, there was the Monster of Rock playing at the Giant Stadium. So who was backstage? Van Halen was there. Scorpions was there. I have a picture of. Oh yeah, I did put it inside the books.
Yeah.
You see Scorpions. You see Michael J. Fox. Joe Ramone was leaning against the wall drinking a Rolling Rock beer, and I'm about 10 feet away from him. Now, I cannot regret anything that I did that night because everything was handled to me. But I kind of wish I went to say hi and have a little talk with Joe Ramone, or maybe snap a picture at him. That would have been cool because he was a personal friend of Ace. So anyway, I go to the.
You could have had him sign the first book.
That would have been cool too.
Because he was present at one. I think he was present at the first concert, wasn't he?
He was there.
Yeah.
He was there. He was at the Coventry. He was there, and anyway, he witnessed a lot of the early stage of Kiss.
Yeah.
So that would have been. But you know what? In those days, I had no clue that he was that close from Ace.
No, most people didn't.
So I did not know. But hey, I took advantage of that day because when I was with Bill, we were looking at those books for half an hour, right? And somebody comes in the back, a friend of Bill, I guess, he said, "You guys, if you want to go and get the spots, because Ace is about to go on stage now." So I said, okay, that's too bad. So we shut the book, shut the door, and we go to see the concert. I snapped a lot of pictures. I got good pictures that I took. I was right next to the stage. And what I did, the best ones are in the books, by the way. I took about maybe 120 pictures from everywhere for that concert. Then I go on the there's like a catwalk on the side. I go on a catwalk, take pictures from there. So you got different angles, fun pictures. And here comes towards the end. Now I don't have a backstage pass. There's no such thing as a backstage pass there, but there's a lot of people going backstage.
Yeah.
After the second encore, before the last encore, I want to go backstage. I want to make sure I'm there when everybody goes out. I don't want to be stuck. So I go backstage. I don't know what's happening. I'm there, I'm waiting, and then I hear roars on the other side. I said, what's going on? Well, I didn't know that Gene and Paul were there. They showed up, and they go on stage to play Deuce with Ace, and I'm missing all this. My friend Daniel is there, and he's snapping pictures. He took pictures from behind, and he got some good ones, which I posted in the books as well. Yeah. So any stories that I'm telling you now, when you cannot see the pictures, you can see that on the books that I have.
Yeah.
So now here they come in, and there's like a river of people come in, the VIPs, and the first one that comes in was Paul. And I remember when Paul walked in, a friend of his was saying something about I don't know exactly the line that he said, but he said something about Ace, and then Paul said to him, he said, as long as he's having fun, that's what counts. And he was talking about Ace. So, there was like good blood going on. It was good because it was the first time they were reunited together. Yeah. So that was like historic, right? And then the next one that comes in is Gene. Now, by the end, I have my books ready, okay? Daniel, my friend, goes and jumps on Gene and grabs him by the arm. Now, he's got a bodyguard next to him. That guy comes start. He goes and grabs him and says, what are you doing? And then he goes, Gene, you got to see those. So the books are there. So those pictures that I have about that, they're published in the books.
Yeah.
But Gene starts looking at the books. He opens the cover. Before he signs it, he starts looking and he goes like, holy cow. That was the first line that came out. Holy cow. And he's looking at the picture because he's looking at the first one. Those are old pictures.
Mm.
And then remember when he got to that black and white picture, he goes, "Where did you get that?" It's 1973 pictures of him.
Mm.
And I said, it was in one of the magazines actually that came out. He said, "Wow." He said, so anyway, then he starts signing them. He signed about 6 of them, and there were still 2 more covers. So what I was doing, I was smart. I brought like maybe at that point, that night, I brought maybe 2 books and the covers of the other ones. So it's not that heavy things to carry with me. So now I got the covers, he signed, and then the bodyguard goes, "That's enough." And I go, "Gene, there's still 2 more. Do you mind?" He said, "Sure, go ahead." And this is the thing. You see, Gene is like a god kind of thing, right? So when he was signing the book, he would raise his hand and wait. So you have to change the cover and put the cover exactly where it is, so he can go down and he would not go like that or go like this. He'd have to be there, and you change the cover for him, like a servant kind of. But hey, he signed the 8 of them just like Ace did. So I was like, thank you. I was blown away, very happy about that. And then now I'm mingling with all those 80 people backstage. Ace did not come out yet because he's getting ready. And so Gene is, everybody is there. Everybody know each other. I'm there. I said, I don't know most of those people. And now we are actually, we're walking like sardines, one against the other. And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning now. Ace finally comes out. There's 2 couches where there's rope around. So now he's sitting there and only a few people go and talk to him. And I had to say at one point, I said, okay, now I have to call it the day. So we left because there was not much we can do anymore. So I took the books, went back. When we exited, there was a limo at the door that says music on the license plate. So I was guessing it's Gene's limo that was there. And I ended up going back to my hotel, and that was it. That was the day at the Limelight. So that was a very, very fun day.
Cool.
Incredible story.
Yeah, what's really cool is that one Swedish journalist that we've had on the podcast a year ago, he also were there, and he was like, "I'm not taking the camera today because it's my day off."
Oh my God! Really? Oh, that's bad. Terrible. Well.
But the next thing, it's not a Kiss encounter, but the next thing you were a dealer at the Kiss Expo in New York when you went to the Hotel Diplomat. That was in the 80s also?
Actually, yes. That was kind of fun because, I'm very much into try to go see the landmark where Kiss was before, and I try to get my picture there or whatever. But when I go to a place where Kiss was before, I'm going to go to the place, and I don't know, it's like I can sense the vibes. Maybe it's mental, I don't know what it is, but I can really see. You can show it to anybody else. There's some pictures I'm going to show you, maybe not you, but somebody else, and they're going to say, okay, this is a normal picture. But when I see it, I go like, oh my God, see, it really does something to me. Well, the location where Kiss were in the past, that does that to me. So I said, okay, I got to go see the Hotel Diplomat. That was in 1988. So I go there, I got my camera with me, and I bought those they were black snake cowboy boots. That's what I was wearing. And this is an area like on 42nd and 43rd Street that's very sketchy to go there. But I said, I need to go and take pictures of the Hotel Diplomat. And if I can go in, I will go in. So, which I did. I went to the Hotel Diplomat. I saw it before they teared it down. And I took 3 pictures, which I'm so glad I did, because it's very difficult to find pictures in the 80s, actually, of the Hotel Diplomat. And I do have them somewhere. I'm going to look at them.
But the Diplomat was still open at that time?
Yes, it was. It was, because I saw it, and I went. I took a picture across the street of the entrance, and then I went in. I went in the lobby. And when I went in the lobby, when I was telling you that I can sense like the vibes, I was totally feeling it there. Because first of all, the front desk, usually a hotel would be like open, right? No, it was like a bank. There was bars, and there was a plexiglass with the holes where you can talk through. That's how it was, okay? It was almost like a fortress because it was against crime, obviously.
A typical place you rent for an hour, then, huh?
Exactly. That's they are known for that.
Yeah.
So I'm there, and I'm looking right above the the registration desk, there's a catwalk. So there's a stairs that goes up, a catwalk to go to the elevator. And I said, oh my God, this is probably where Kiss probably walked there to go to the Crystal Ballroom. Who knows? So I was like, everything was sinking in me when I was in there. I said, wow, this is so cool. I'm there. This is a place where very few people went that are Kiss fans. And then I went out and I took another pictures, and that's when I almost got mugged, actually, because when I crossed the street, there was this lady selling watches. She had like a suitcase open on the sidewalk, and she was selling watches. And I go like, okay, let me go buy a watch. And I bought a watch. It was $15, very cheap, right? But I had my camera with me. So because I gave her a purchase, whatever, she goes, let me fix that for you. So she's making believe that she's fixing the watch, but she's not. She's buying time for me because there's 3 guys behind me waiting to mug me. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, by the way. And there's people walking around, but it's going to happen. So they see that she knows, and she's kind of holding everything. So they start walking a little bit, maybe 10 feet that way. She gives me back the watch real quick. She goes, go now, that way, fast. Now I'm like, oh God. And then I'm kind of a new person from the small country going in a big city, right? But I get the message, what's going on. So I go and cross the street. And when I cross the street, there's another lady passing me. And that lady goes to me. She goes, hide that camera. They're going to beat you up. I said, oh my God. So I go, and I ended up going on Fifth Avenue. And after that, it was okay. I went back to normal but you don't carry a camera like that in the open in this kind of neighborhood. That was a close call. But that was my experience with the Hotel Diplomat. Oh, here we go. I got the pictures right here. So there was a sign at the door.
Wow.
And that sign was taken. You can see that was across the street. That sign is next to that man over there.
Yeah.
But the best picture is this one. This is the best one. This one is like priceless. So let me go here. There you go.
Yeah, cool.
Wow.
You got how much is it for rooms and everything on the wall. But
yeah.
So that was the Hotel Diplomat experience with me. That was kind of fun.
Very cool.
Another cool story before, I'm not going to cover the other one when I met with, there's a time actually in Tempe, but real quick, there's a story nobody ever heard. Back in 1990, I moved to Connecticut, and I was working in a restaurant at night, and I was trying to get to earn more money. So I said, let me find a job during the day. And I found a job in a wine store. And I said, good, that's going to be helping me knowing about wine for the job that I have, because I was working in a restaurant. So I'm just like stocking boxes, opening boxes of wine and storing them. And then I did that for maybe 2 or 3 months. And the guy I was working with was not a Kiss fan, but he ended up, so I don't know, sometime I spoke something about Kiss. I said, oh, you are a Kiss fan? I said, yes, I am. He goes, I have a story for you. I said, what is it? He goes, a friend of mine asked me to go do a job for 2 days with him. He was in Connecticut. Who lives in Connecticut? Peter Criss and Ace Frehley.
Yeah.
So he ended up having to go to Ace's house. And he didn't know that where it was, but until he got to the gate, there was like the logo of Ace on the ground. And he goes like, is this the guy from Kiss? He goes, yeah. So those 2 guys were hired to dynamite the ground for the
recording studio.
Yeah,
for the recording studio.
Ace in the hole.
Yeah.
Yes. So there we go. Ace in the hole. And then so he was explaining to me. I said, this is very cool. What else can you tell me about this story? He goes, well, he said the second day when we were doing it, Ace was actually doing dirt bike in his backyard, because the backyard was quite big, and he had trees, and he had like a trail, because Ace, he likes guns, he likes doing dirt bike and things like that. So that's what he was doing. And he said when it was time to get paid, Ace didn't do anything. There was another man in the house that came and gave him the check for whatever they were doing, and gave him, I think the tip was like $100 each or $200 each. I can't remember exactly how much, but that was one of those 2. And then that was it. That was a story that I learned about and this guy had nothing to create a story, because he was not a Kiss fan. He was not trying to impress me. It's something that really happened.
That's very cool.
It was kind of fun.
So the next encounter you had, is it Sean Delaney now, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with Sean
yeah. We'll what we'll say, we will talk about the meetings, but we'll go deeper into Sean Delaney on the future episode. So
yeah, I'm sure I can fill an entire episode on that for
we
sure.
will.
You and I.
We're both.
Yeah. So the way I met Sean Delaney, to get straight to that, the only time I heard about Sean Delaney before, because there was not that many article that talks about Sean, was there was this. You heard about that, the Alison Steele interview in 1974 with Kiss. She was a radio host, and she interviewed Kiss. And I remember, because I have this interview here, when I listened to it, Gene says that at one point at the Academy of Music on 1973, December 31st, that his hair caught fire. And Sean Delaney was the one that jumped on him with a jacket to extinguish it. So he goes like, that's when I okay, Sean Delaney. That's when the name wasn't me. So when I'm in Phoenix, Arizona in 1992, I am in a comic book store, and I see this guy with long hair, and he's buying a Kiss comic books. I'm there for comic books, but I see him buying a Kiss comic books. I said, "Are you a Kiss fan?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "I am too." I said, "You want to exchange the phone numbers? Maybe we can show each other our collections." He said, "Okay." So I became friend with this guy. His name is Stanley Goat. This is his picture.
Cool.
So Stanley Goat was I say was because he passed away. He had cystic fibrosis. I did not know anything about this disease, and but he had trouble breathing, so I thought it was like asthma. And but he was not the kind of person to say anything about himself about negative things. He was always a very, very kind person. So him and I exchanged a lot of the first time he came to my place, that was one of the rare times that I showed all my slides of Kiss, and I have Super 8 movies from 1976, the Alive tour when Gene hair caught on fire. So I got my projector. I was showing him that. So he got like the VIP treatment when he came to my house for what my collection was about. And then I saw his, which he had a pinball machine. He had everything. He had like the guitar toy. We're talking 1970s here. Things. He's got everything about that. So we're exchanging some. So we're having a good time doing that. And one day, he gives me a call. He said, "Roger," he said, "would you be interested on meeting Sean Delaney?" I go like, "What?" He said, "Do you know who he is?" I said, "Yes, I do know who he is, but I'd like to know more about him." I said, "Yes, I would love to go." So he said, "Okay, come and meet us on Sunday, and we'll go ahead and do that." So my first experience with Sean Delaney was basically, we went to meet him, and it was at the Denny's restaurant for breakfast. We did a big interview with him. Stan did a big interview with him, so we were recording everything. And I don't have this recording, but he did a transcript of all this interview, so I have that with me. And then the next thing is, this is a transcript. So there's 39 pages. And then after that, we went to a park, and there was a picnic table where I put my books on that table, and he started looking at the books. That I recorded on a 4-track cassette. So that goes for about 45 minutes of very good information. And the last part is, the other things that I own is a DVD. And this DVD, there's not that many people who saw that for one particular reason. Why all those interviews are different from the ones that you will see on the web is because that was way, way before. That was at the very beginning when he was looking for recognition and fame. And now there was fan talking to him, and he can finally like vent and say what was going on. So Sean, needless to say, is a very dramatic person.
Was there talk about the book already then?
I'm sorry, which one?
Did he talk about doing a book already then?
Yes, he did. Yeah. He said that he had so many stories that he wanted to do a book. And we're going to leave it there at that for that particular day. But that DVD that I have is that it was done in a future date. And this DVD was pretty much him talking to a broker. And that goes for 45 minutes. pretty much kind of selling him on how much stories that he knows and how important it is to release a book to the public. So that's pretty intense. Very intense.
We'll talk more about that in the future episode.
Yeah, will be a special episode of Sean Delaney. So
yeah, for sure. Well, another one I want to talk about is Tony Rosenholm that you had as a guest not too long ago. So this guy is a very cool guy, and when I went to the LA Kiss Expo, I brought 3 books with me, but I did not bring the books right away. So when I got to the expo, I went straight because I got a message from Ken Sharp the day before. And Ken was saying, okay, I will be there tomorrow. I said, okay, cool. And he said, Moose is going to be there too. I said, very well, cool. Because I'm a very good friend of Moose as well. And so when I got there, I went in and I thought the expo, that was the registration for the expo, but no, that was it. That was the vendors were there. It was like a giant L and there was a stage next to it. So I go and scout. There was not that many people as far as like vendors, but they were solid vendor. They were important vendors. Like, I mean, Moose was there. There was like Big John Hart was right there. Roman was in the corner doing the petition for Bill O'Quine to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then you had Julian Gill from FAQ podcast. And when I saw him, that Ken Sharp was sitting right next to him. So when I arrived at the table, we never met together as far as Julian and I. And Ken goes, Roger Bernard. I said, hey, Ken, how are you? And then he tells Julian, he said, this is the guy that has the legendary Kiss Black books. And then Julian kind of backed up one step. I said, he goes, really? I said, yeah, sure. But I didn't have the books with me yet at that point. So we have a small talk, and then I said, Moose is over there. I'll go see Moose. And then I got my things to go sign with Peter, which I had to wait 5 hours in line to do, but it was done. That's another story by itself, but I want to go straight to the point I'm trying to get. After I got my things signed by Peter, I went back to the parking lot that is across the street, put my stuff in the trunk, and I got the book number 1. And I was carrying that on my shoulder. By the time I got there, I was exhausted. It was so heavy. And then the first place I went straight to Julian. I wanted him to see the books because I knew that he saw the videos, but he never saw the books in person. So I put the book down on the table, and he goes like, whoa. And I start opening the pages. And that's when I was showing the pages, Tony approached us. And he says, you, Roger? I said, yes. He said, can we take pictures? I said, yeah, of course he can. So he's starting to take pictures. And that's when something made me realize that looking at the books on the videos is something, but to see them in person is a totally different thing.
Of course.
It's very impressive. And so we're turning the pages now, and I got Julian next to me, and he's looking at that with Ken, his co-host. And then they're recognizing almost everything that is there. And then Tony and his friends were there, and they're looking at it. So I said, okay, now there's some interest on the books now. This is cool. And then he says, hold on a second. And then he went on the phone, and then he came back and says to me about like the possibility of doing the podcast with you.
Yeah,
and I said that. Yeah. I said like, this is really cool because nobody ever approached me to talk about the books. So I said, this is I would be delighted to do something about that.
Really cool.
So that was like my story with Tony.
We have to talk about 95 also.
Are you talking about the
when Paul
Tempe?
when Paul wanted to buy
the hotel
book.
room? Yeah, hotel room. That's a hotel room.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in Tempe, April 27, 1992. It was in you remember when Eric Singer was introduced to Kiss and they did like 15 club tour?
Yeah.
In U.S. So they're coming at a very small club in Tempe, Arizona, and it's called After the Gold Rush. That's the name of that club. So again, I did the same thing as prior. I go a day before, I go to the club, and who happens to be there? The promoter. I always got lucky on those things, by the way, to see the right person, right? Timing and is very, very important in life. And so I showed it to him. He said, okay, absolutely. You come and see us and come tomorrow. We'll have everything done. Well, I was there at 10 o'clock in the morning. The show was at night. So at 10 o'clock, and as luck would have it, I got there literally 2 minutes before the truck arrived. So I have footage on my video camera of the truck parking opening the doors and get all the equipment in. And I'm inside and I'm taping everything, the stage been set up. So this is like very unseen before, right? And then finally, after maybe half an hour of filming, one of the person in charge goes and says, excuse me, do you have the right to be here? I said, yes, I met with the promoter. He said, well, the promoter is not in charge here. We are. So stop filming. I said, okay. So I shut the camera and I went outside, still looking at what's going on. Now, it's this day, by the way, it's in Arizona. It's about 120 degrees. So I'm backstage on the loading dock. Kiss finally arrived in a van, in a minivan. And they were, Paul had a cowboy hat. Gene had shorts, ponytail, baseball cap. And they were all dressed differently to decoy when they were coming in, that people would not know it's Kiss that is in there instead of a limo, because there were people in front of that club. I'm in the back on the loading dock with the door open, seeing the stage. So they go in. The first song they do for their sound check is Love Gun. That's Paul's favorite song. So I watched Love Gun going on, and they do another song. It's extremely loud, by the way. I'm outside, and it's like, whoa, this is very loud. And then they take a break. Paul comes out, and there's like in between the stage and the loading dock, there's like a little room, maybe 10 feet big, to go, and he's drinking a bottle of water. And I go, hey, Paul. I said, do you remember those big black books you saw in Quebec City one time? He said, yeah, I do. I said, I have them. He said, cool. He said, we'll go and look at those later. I said, good. And then I saw the promoter, and he goes, if you want to meet them, go to that hotel, the Palm Hotel in Tempe, Arizona. I said, okay. I put my books back in the car, and I go there. I had a special crate on wheels. I wheeled that. I got the room number. I go there. I knock at the door. It was a special day that they did for Mercury Records, that they were inviting some people. There were about like between 50 and 70 people in that room, easy. But I was one of the first one there. There was maybe 5 people, because the video that I posted on YouTube is when everybody was there already. At the beginning, there's like maybe 5 or 6 people, and then the food is on the table and everything is quiet. I got my books on the bed, and if you saw the video, you know how it went after that. So after that, Paul looked at the books again. This was funny because the other guys are all signing everything, but Paul is not signing because he's looking at the books again. And when he finished, if you saw this movie, he goes, I could look at those all night. And then, so after everything is done, we have to go back for the concert. So I put everything back in my crates, and I'm wheeling that down, put that in my car. And I remember driving the car going back to the concert. I said, this got to be one of the best days of my life, because now I had Gene and Paul looking at the books together. That's what I was waiting for. So I'm driving, and I'm going like, wow. So when I got there, again, no backstage pass. So I'm waiting on the parking lot in the back, and I see Paul and the tour manager. That's his name, Steve Wood.
Yep.
He gave me his card. So he goes, both go inside, and then Steve Wood comes back out, and he goes, Paul was talking to me, and he was asking me if you'd be interested in selling the books. I said, well, I never thought about selling the books, but if I would be selling them, maybe Paul would definitely be the one I would do it. He said, okay. He goes to me, he goes, how much do you want to sell those for? I said, I don't know. You're asking me how much I sell that for? I said, I can't tell you how much money I invested in them. You do the math. There's over 10,000 pictures altogether in those, including like magazine goes for about $1 or $2 each, and then pictures usually it's about $1, and convention that's how much you're gonna be paying for it. So I said, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna go, I don't know, I invested close to $20,000. He said, I don't think it's gonna pay that. But so the conversation kind of stopped there, because he had to go back. They had to go to concert. And then I went in and do the concert, and after the second encore, I was exhausted and watched the last thing, and then I left. Instead of staying, I don't know why, instead of staying and trying to have a talk with them or whatever, I just went home. And it's one of those things. So, and then I never got to talk with Paul since then about the books. So, and then of course they came out with their Kiss stories, and they have their things going on. So it's not like I'm looking for Paul trying to sell the book, but I know how much he likes them though. So that would be cool if you
have to tell about in the convention tour book.
The convention tour book.
Where you're mentioned in the text, you showed me the Kiss convention to October '95.
Yes, thank you. That convention. I was trying to think about the one
No,
in New York.
No.
Okay, y'all seen this?
Yeah, sure.
This is a tour book from the special convention they did. So that day, I was taking a break from looking at everything, and I was looking at that book, and I got to the page where you see Ace's boots, and I'm gonna get to it now. And I realized that they were talking about me.
That's why I thought 95 when I said the other
This page on the bottom there, when you look over there, if you read, it says, when you meet a Kiss fans we're talking about Gene, the first thing they do is show their collection of paraphernalia. We met a fan whose scrapbooks on top, one on top of the other, would stall taller than we are. So I knew they were talking about me because I was the only one that came up with books that big to be like that. So that was kind of
really cool.
I said, wow. I said, okay, now they're talking about me. They know me now. This is good. This is very, very cool. But
I'm just wondering now you have 8 books.
Yes.
Have you stopped at a certain period or?
Yes, I did. So it's from 1973 until 1996.
96.
Okay.
So
okay.
When the reunion tour happened, we all have our favorite things, and to me, because I saw Love Gun, I saw when it was. Everything in life has a time and a place. When I saw the reunion tour, it was kind of cool to have those big screen in back, but that time was past for me. There was a time for that, and the reunion tour did not do it for me.
No?
It was kind of cool that they got together, but that's when it kind of stopped for me.
Yeah.
The magic was gone, if I can say. Personally, that's what it was for me. Then, but I'll tell you, the one thing that gets me very, very excited about seeing Kiss live is the Kiss Cruise.
Yeah.
The indoor show that they do. Yeah, on the deck, on the sail away is cool, but the indoor show has the most intimate and most private party that you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
That gets me. It's like I've seen 2 of them. You guys been to that again as well.
Yeah.
And you try to describe that to a fan. When the confetti goes on and everything, I mean, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in 1974. And with the old time with Kiss when they were going crazy.
Yeah, because I always had a dream before my first Kiss cruise. I always had a dream when I saw old pictures of Kiss. There was no barrier in the front of the stage.
Yeah.
No.
People were standing on the stage like this, and I could do the same thing on the cruise because I was up front for one of the concerts, and I could I was standing on the front like this on stage.
Nice.
And when Paul or Gene or Tommy was like pointing to people, I was so close. So I wasn't the person they were pointing on. They were pointing at the person behind me. That's how I was like, I was like between, it was very strange. It was a very, very, very strange situation, And you can take pics, directly from the guitars and basses and everything. And that was surreal, It was very, very strange. It was a strange experience.
That's the same with me. It's like the most extreme experience I've had there. I've been on the front row of the pit on all the concerts I've been to there. I've been in back on once. But it's like just laying your hand on the Dragon Show bit.
Yeah.
That's real. It's so surreal that.
Wow. I mean, and everything is so clear. I mean, it's amazing. Even when you take pictures, you see how sharp everything is. You go like, my God, it doesn't get any clearer than that. And you're so close and you can see every detail. Now, if you... the thing that I like to do once in a while is do like my top 5 this, top 5 of that.
Sure.
And a thing that I did, I came up with this idea. If you had a time machine and you can go back and see for a period maybe of like an hour, you can go back and as far as the Kiss world is involved, I did my top 7 places I would go and take a look at.
Shoot.
The first Coventry Club show that they did in January 30th, the very first club where there was barely anybody there. I wanted to see exactly what happened there. Le Tang the thing is like a must. There's like 12 or 13 people that were present there, but then we get different stories for everyone. And when I'm sure in the future episode when we talk about Sean Delaney, we're going to have some version of that as well. But I would have loved. This is one, obviously. By the way, I contacted Lydia Chris to find out exactly the date and everything when that happened, and she was not there. So I'm guessing because that show was between 5 and 6 o'clock at night, she was probably working that day.
Probably.
That's why, because she would be there otherwise taking pictures. And there's a very, very few pictures that does exist by Eddie Solan. But that would be one I would have loved to see. I would have loved to see the rehearsal at the Fillmore. Now, the Fillmore concert was big, but the rehearsal, when they were doing it without the makeup, and, they got a stage for themselves, they were there for a week or two at the end of December to practice. I would have loved to see maybe 1 hour when they're rehearsing there and see how it happens. Another one is the first time Peter met Jean and Paul.
Yeah.
When he walked in, when he walked in and they were outside and they did not know it was them, and then he came back. I would have loved to see that, and Peter with the flashy clothes and everything. That would have been great.
Outside Electric Lady, we should say.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And the Palisade, the library concert that they did, that nobody has any pictures of that.
No.
They have to be pictures out there because it was for a charity event. There's no such thing as a charity event without pictures. And when that thing happened at night, it was so special. There's got to be one of the old people that were there that has one of the pictures in their shoebox in the closet somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's just a matter if they're going to be destroyed or if somebody's going to get a hold of it.
That's the problem, that people wasn't interested in Kiss. So they took pictures and maybe took a few pictures of Kiss. But they were not interested in the band, and the pictures probably got lost or something. Who knows?
Probably.
I'm convinced there's got to be something appearing. Then the next one is Ace's audition with Kiss. When he went to audition for Kiss, it was like there's too many different stories on that, and people were trying to take the glory of they know exactly what happened. I would love to be witnessing that. And the last one would probably be my favorite, is the Bleecker Street's 8th Floor concert. The first one, they did two. The first one that they did when they came in, did the concert, everybody was shocked and they walked out.
Yeah.
That one, the one with that, there's a picture where there's a rope. Yeah. The rope in front. That's the one.
Yeah.
That one.
I love that group shot that Lydia took before the concert.
Yeah, I have the poster over here. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have a poster of that one too. I love that picture.
Yeah.
So those are the things I kind of put together. That's if it was me, that's probably where I would go. I don't know about you guys if you have any favorites.
There's many of them.
That probably most of the ones you mentioned, but besides that, the photo shoot with Norman Seeff for the Hot Run Hell album.
Yeah.
But I couldn't just be there an hour. I had to be there for a whole day.
That's probably exactly. That had to be the whole day for sure. And that was not just like an hour over there. That's for sure.
That, from what I understand, that was where the expo were in LA now.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
I think so.
Because I
think they've spoken about it.
Wow, that would be cool, man.
Yeah.
Oh, but those are pretty much. We covered pretty much all the stories as far as the. There's another story that is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The guy is not a Kiss fan. I was working in Phoenix as a server, and then the other server is telling me, "You are a Kiss fan?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Here's a story for you." He said, "My brother was a Kiss fan in '76, and they followed the band at the end of the night, at the end of the concert. They were trying to follow them to the hotel, and their limo broke down. The limo broke down, and they gave Kiss a ride. Back to the hotel. So that was kind of a very, it was not that long, but I said, oh my God, the chances of something like that to happen. And again, this guy had nothing to gain at telling a story like that. It was really, it did happen. It was his brother and it happened to him. So that was kind of a cool thing to happen.
Yeah.
But let's see what.
Yeah.
A cool one. I spoke to you about this. When I was in high school, there was this guy that I knew that had a beard, and I knew him, but I never really talk to him. So when I went in 1977 to the Love Gun concert, he was in the back of the bus. So, and he had a 35 millimeter camera. So this guy had pictures of Kiss, Love Gun, which I still to this day never seen before. So then I lost contact with this guy. And then one day in 1980, I received a phone call from a friend of mine who was a drummer, and he was putting up together this big band. And something happened is that we're going to be auditioning this bass player. And the bass player used to play for Jimi Hendrix.
Mm.
And he speaks only English. That was in Quebec, where everybody speaks only French.
Mm.
And he goes, would you be interested? Because I know you have an amplifier, a Marshall for bass. He said, would you be willing to bring it so you can play on it? I said, yeah, I would. So we did that. My brother and I, we went there. And we set up the amplifier. And then here comes this guy, and he plugs his bass. And they were playing extremely loud. And this guy played for Jimi Hendrix, so he's used to loud, right? So after the first song, they were playing Rock and Roll Uchiku. That's what they were playing. And at the end of the song, the bass player says, "This is so loud." Like he was saying that because the guitar was like shredding everything. I mean, it was like crazy. So then, who was the manager for that band? That guy with the beard that I met in 1977. That was from high school. That had those pictures.
Wow.
But I was so involved in the story that the guy played for Jimi Hendrix, I didn't think of asking him, hey, by the way, do you have any pictures? Because now the guy owed me for me doing them a favor. That would have been great if I asked him, do you have any pictures I can, have or share?
So
but I didn't think of that.
if anybody knows who he is, get hold of him and get the pictures.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be very cool.
But I think we're starting to come close to the end there now. So, but
Yes.
it's been really nice having you on, Roger.
Sure. Well, the pleasure is mine,
So-
and I want to thank
so-
you. For,
Yeah.
I want to really thank you for giving me the opportunity to put some exposures on the books, because it's the first time it really happens that I
but,
can, beside the videos that I did, I'm going to put the card in front. This is my card that I have, and you
Yeah.
see on top the legendary Kiss Black Books. So if you go on YouTube and you enter this title, I have about 29 or 30 videos that are about like almost half an hour each. It's flipping every pages, so you can see the books in there, and
Yeah,
it's
and
kind
I've
of
seen most of them, and it's absolutely worth it. It's just incredible, and I really love the video with you and Ross also when you go.
Oh, that was good, yeah. Well,
When
you know
go
what?
to the
Speaking
pictures.
of that, you saw Russ here talking and looking at the books. If you ever come in California, get a hold of me, and I'd be more than happy to show any Kiss fans some of the books.
That would be really
Yeah.
cool. And we'll speak again soon about
Yeah.
Sean Delaney.
Yeah, we
It'd be
will.
fun.
And
I'd
we'll
love to do that.
Every episode did you see seen any of the endings of our episodes?
I saw the one with Dennis.
Yeah, and we always end like this, like keep on kissing.
Kissing. All right.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.